back, Hype Coach VIPs and listeners. Boy, do I have a real treat in for you guys today. You guys are really going to enjoy my next guest as much as I do. She will like talking for like about 25 minutes before jumping onto this podcast, and she's going to give you guys so much value, even more value than I can probably give you. We're going to bring the energy, we're going to bring the fire, and we're going to bring the tools. The point of the Hype Coach podcast isn't the fact that we're just going to talk here and entertain people and just give them basically a shit show of information. We're going to give you the real tools and ways that are proven to change your life forever. And today we're going to talk about eating disorders. Today I have Saabira. She is a dietitian. She's a counselor. She's a mum of 4 girls. So there's a lot of estrogen in that household. There's a lot of body positivity, especially she's an eating disorder specialist. And she truly, truly cares. She specializes in all types of eating disorders from women and teens. So I help you. Please welcome Saabira.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on today, Safa. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. I'm like just oozing with excitement right now. So tell me a little bit about you in your own terms and ways that you specialize in eating disorders.
Okay, so I started off with being a dietitian, working with eating disorders purely from a dietetics point of view. Realized that was just not cutting it. It was just not. And so went on, did my master's in psychology, counseling, and started adding the psychology into it because there is such an emphasis on psychology in eating disorders that is often forgotten. Everyone focuses on food, on getting back to eating enough, and we forget about the mind side of it that actually drives these eating behaviors and the eating disorder behaviors as well. So that's kind of me in a nutshell in terms of what I do. I'm really passionate about body image and being body neutral, and also like raising my girls in a body neutral world as much as possible, because that is the key to, I guess, reducing the risk of eating disorders.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I was younger, I would like be traumatized every single time my mum would jump onto the scale.
Yeah.
My mum has always been a very curvy woman. She still is a very curvy woman. And it was so hard, in the 90s and the early 2000s to stick into like that stick figure, mindset stereotype. And our bodies just weren't made for it. So we're just traumatized. Like we'd see my mum like really upset every single time she'd jump onto the scale. So that then really shaped my sort of relationship with food and relationship with my body very, very early on. Yeah. Like if I had the information, like now I tell my daughter, I have a 8-year-old daughter, she's almost 9. Now I tell my daughter, make healthier decisions, figure out when you're full, don't overeat, don't eat and drink at the same time, move your body and stuff like that. I didn't have that before. Like if my pants didn't fit 3 months down the track as an early teen, I was in trouble.
Yeah. And I think like for you, it was like mum getting on the scale. For some people, it was like watching mum doing different diets, like Weight Watchers was big back then. And then seeing them like weigh out food and like count points and then be so like upset when they've eaten too much. And you're just like, whoa, what's wrong with eating now? So much going on there that we don't realize that as a young person that we've taken in, right?
Yeah.
And that body dissatisfaction starts with, mum thinks her body's wrong. Well, then what about my body?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah. And that's where it gets, like, that's unfortunately where it starts. And, like, as next generation, we've carried on that generational trauma of going, okay, well, we need to change our bodies too.
Yeah. That's another way of breaking the cycle. Hey, that's just another cycle that we need to break. The things that we believe. Oh, goodness. Let me ask you, what helped you or what encouraged you to jot down this route of body image, body positivity, and a healthier relationship with food?
Honestly, my experience. So I guess my experience, it starts off with that Weight Watchers, like watching your parents always talk about, my weight's not like, I need to lose weight. I need to lose X amount of kilos. Watching them do different types of diets, I think it really reflected on myself and going, okay, what's wrong with me? And then chuck into the mix migration and being a migrant child.
Yeah.
And not having a sense of belonging, like not feeling like I fit in. And then going, okay, well, mum's all doing all of these things about weight and saying that her body's wrong. Maybe that's the reason why I don't fit in. And really looking at it from a superficial point of view of, why do I feel so uncomfortable in my environment? Why do I feel like I don't belong?
Wow. And what came from that?
And eating
What
disorder.
hoops did you have to jump from?
That's when I guess, like, trying to fit in, I tried to change my body, eating reduced.
Wow. Girl, how old were you when it started?
I can't remember. Probably, I'm saying maybe grade 5, grade 6.
Like 10.
Yeah,
11.
9, 10, 11, that time.
Wow, that's so young.
Exactly. And apparently nowadays it's happening younger than that. Like, I say the average age is 10.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can see it in kids as young as 5 and 6.
Yeah, especially in young girls.
Yeah.
I've always encouraged my kids to be active.
Mm.
And I think my daughter came up to me maybe about 6 months ago. She's 8.
Yeah.
And she was saying, oh, Mum, the girls, again, we're very curvy women. I know my daughter's going to be curvy because the body shape, I can see it. She's very lean, very muscly because she does dancing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's always active. Girls said to me that, you know, my bottom is very, like, big and other girls are, like, very skinny. And I'm like, yeah, Mum, show them your abs. Show them your abs. Who has abs? I'm like, yeah, Mum, we're curvy women. We can't change that. And I'm like, and you love your curves eventually. That was a big slap in the face. And knowing that my daughter's like she's 8.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I've had a lot of parents come to me and be like, oh, my daughter, like, has said something about her body. And I will just say, like, we're quick to go, oh, no, you're beautiful. But to be honest, that actually invalidates them. So it's actually going, hey, yeah, it sounds like you feel uncomfortable that you have a bigger bottom. That's okay to feel uncomfortable. Like, it's okay, but we can't really change it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Rather than jumping to the, oh, no, you're beautiful, because that really dismisses their feelings. Right? So not to put you in the spot there.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I want you to put me in a spot. You can be my counselor today. You can be my parent counselor, my body counselor, and everything.
Yeah. So
I'm not the professional today. You are.
Okay. But yeah, often that, like, invalidates them, and we get kids going, like, coming back to us going, oh, my parents not listening to me when I tell them I don't like my body.
Wow. So
right?
Okay. So I've given you a scenario.
Okay.
My daughter came to me, and this is a real scenario, by the way. My daughter came to me and she was saying to me that, other girls were saying I have a bigger bottom because my skirt just pops out and goes a bit short at the back. And, the way I dealt with it is like, people pay for curves, Mum. Like, you have it for free. You have it naturally. Isn't that nice? And then she's like, yeah, but everyone's skinny. And I said to her, well, it looks like you're already going through puberty. So your body is going to naturally change. So how would you reroute that? Reframe that?
All right. So, okay, I'm going to go. So she came to me and she told me that, hey, this is what people are saying. I would go, well, how does that make you feel? Like, what do you think about your bottom? Right? Do you like your bottom? Do you think it's okay? Right? So I put the question back on her, going, okay, you're telling me that other people are commenting, but what do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Right? And then I'll let her answer. And then if she goes, oh, well, other people are skinny and, like, my body's different. Essentially what you would do is going, it sounds to me that you feel uncomfortable that you look different to other people. Right? And then go on to that explanation of, you know what, everyone's body's different. Some people's bodies are bigger and some people are leaner. But it's really important to make sure you validate that feeling.
So validate it first.
Yeah. Right? Okay. Because kids want to be heard. They want to be seen. Right? And so as soon as you kind of go, oh, no, don't worry about that. You're beautiful, or like, you should love your curves or whatever it is. They go, oh, you're not listening to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So
right. They feel unheard. Right. Yeah. So it's always just to validate them first and then go on to all of the nice compliments you want to give them.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's also, like, what I notice with parents is when their kids come to them saying they don't like their body, a lot of parents kind of go, that makes me feel uncomfortable because I don't like my body either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
but and then it's triggered
generation.
triggered so many ways, right? But then it's also go to the fact of like, how do I tell my child that they're beautiful when I don't feel beautiful myself?
Yeah, and that's when you do the inner work as a parent. So
Exactly.
that's another like thing that we need to pay attention. So like I always get, teenage girls in here. And then how I conduct my child counseling session is I get the parent into the session as well. Just like it.
Yeah.
Because I teach the parent to be the therapist outside of the therapy session. Like you come and see me once an hour, like an hour a week, or an hour every fortnight or every 3 weeks. We need all hands
a lot
on
more.
deck. Yeah. Everyone. We need everyone. So I get the parents into it. And a lot of the time when we're uncovering like all these insecurities, all these triggers, or all these things that the child is dealing with, the parent uncovers some triggers that they're dealing with. And guess who ends up in my office?
The parent.
The parent. It sounds so weird to say, but it's true. And here's another thing, right? We have to be careful as parents that we're not projecting our insecurities onto our children subconsciously.
Yes.
Do your children watch you jump onto the scale? Do your children watch you go for walks? Do your children have an active lifestyle? Do your children see you guys not eat?
Do they see you commenting on your bodies? Do they listen to that saying, oh, I feel uncomfortable in this dress, or I feel fat?
Yeah.
Children see that. Actually, when you were saying about how parents come to see you after their child, it really reminded me of a little girl that I saw. She was 11 or 12, right? Coming from a dance background. She had an eating disorder, right?
Yeah.
And so how I do therapy with my little kids is that I see the child separately and then I'll see them together with the parent. So I'll see them individually as well, because a lot of the eating disorders have a secretive aspect to it. So a lot of the kids don't want their parents knowing parts of it. So this child, when I was speaking to her alone, kind of opened up to me going, well, my mum does all of this. My mum doesn't eat and therefore I'm copying her, right? And obviously with the child's permission, I brought it up with mum. Guess what? They both stopped seeing me because mum didn't want to deal with her issues.
Oh, triggered.
Exactly.
Hit the nail on the head.
Right? I'm like, at the end of the day, this had to get the doctors involved and, make sure she goes to see, get the care that she needs because the child needed it. But yeah, that was such an eye opener. That was like when I was newly fresh out.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, like that is it's hard, but it's like you need to do the work.
We're gonna piggyback off that. A lot of the time, the parents bring the child into the counseling sessions for their problems and they take a back seat. They're like, the child has the problem. I don't have the problem. There's a sense of ego or a sense of pride, right? But what happens is this is another reason why I get the parent into the session. And they tell me like, he's angry, he's upset, or he doesn't deal with his emotions or whatever. I'm like, are you projecting?
Exactly.
Okay, so I use this metaphor in therapy just to help people understand self-accountability.
Okay.
Therapy or counseling or, all our line of work, mental health as a whole, right? It's kind of like I've given you an opportunity to go grocery shopping in the dark. Your job is to go down to the aisle, get what you need, and get to the end, and you do that. So as you do that, the lights are off. Okay, you're tripping and tumbling and making a mess and basically look like at one point you have octopus hands. You're like touching this side and touching this side. And once you get to the end of the aisle, imagine I turn on the light and then you look at the mess that you've made, or you look at the mess that you are responsible for, or you look at the conditioning that you are responsible for, or either by you, passed down through you, or passed down through generations due to lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what counseling is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for many people, not a lot of people are willing to turn on the light to self-accountability.
Oh, so true. And you know what? Sometimes they pass it on to the next generation to the point where they go, well, I don't think you need to either, to their teenagers. Like, I don't think you need to go counseling. I don't think that's something you need to help with your problems, because they're scared themselves.
Yeah.
Their teenager do it because they think it's a reflection of them,
Yeah.
or they don't need it.
Mm.
It's some, you know what? I was actually watching a video the other day, and this lady kind of described it as, you know, we have a personal trainer for our physical health,
Yes.
but what about our mental health? Like, why don't we need a personal? Like, we do need a personal trainer for that.
A mental health counselor, like literally, you take your body to the gym. What happens to your mind?
Exactly. And you know what? It's really interesting because I find that like teenagers nowadays or young children understand the importance of mental health. They understand their emotions, but they don't know what to do with it because they don't have the tools. Like they don't have the right people to guide them, because a lot of their parents are like, "Oh, this is too much for me. Too many emotions.
I'm duck out real quick. This is making me feel uncomfortable."
Yes.
So what
And
happens is children, like that, what they're teaching there is avoidance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Eating disorders are heightened on avoidance.
Yeah.
So what happens is, okay, mum and dad have had a fight. I see mum's quite upset. What do I see mum do?
Go
Does
into
she
the
clean?
kitchen.
Does she eat her? Does she eat? Does she eat her feelings? Does she have a block of chocolate? Does she have a cake? Does she say, you know what, I feel like Macca's?
Yeah.
What does she do? I'm going to do the exact same. Or she'll be like, do you want to join me? So she doesn't have that self-guilt.
Yep.
And then she creates a conditioned cycle.
Yeah.
She conditions her child, whether male or female. The only time that we connect is over food.
Exactly. Right. Or the food makes us feel better.
Yeah, the foods make us feel better. Don't worry, the bombs are going off outside this room, outside the kitchen. But it's okay because this feels great.
Yeah. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. And yes, they teach them avoidance and self-soothing.
Yes, that. And numbing. Self-numbing.
Numbing, yeah. Avoidance
especially,
and numbing, yes.
especially for the little ones, when they're like put in that situation, they're literally like numbing their feelings. Right? And there's a lot of stigma. There's heaps of stigma. And that's also another reason why there's avoidance, is because of the stigma. Right? But, you know, it was interesting because you said the mum is a role model to that. But then also, if you think about it with a child, if they're in a vulnerable situation where maybe the environment is uncomfortable, all right, parents are fighting, or, you know, they're being bullied at school and they want to soothe themselves, they actually don't have access to other ways of soothing themselves besides food.
Yeah.
Right? If you think about it, for a child, what's easily accessible? Oh, let me go get a slice of bread and slather on some butter on it and then eat it. Like, you wouldn't believe that is one of the most common binge foods, a slice of bread with butter.
Wow. That's the most common?
Most common. And cereal.
I love cereal.
Right? Yeah. The two, because they're accessible. And it's a thing that kids actually learn. Too. Sorry?
Cost effective.
Yeah, cost effective. But then it's a child, right? Like, it starts off with, like, from childhood, right? And that's easily accessible. Like, there's always bread, there's always butter. No one's going to question you for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So you can binge on those things in public-ish kind of thing, right? Yeah. And then no one's going to see. No one's going to notice. They're going to be like, oh, he's just eating. He's just hungry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the foods that are not allowed, so the chips, the chocolates, the ice cream. Now, if those are eaten as part of the binge or as part of self-soothing or numbing, those are often done in secret.
Wow. So they have like a secret stash.
Yeah. Or they go to their room, they take it and they go to their room and they eat it, or they buy it without the parents knowing and have a secret stash, right? Like, especially for binge eating, the thing that actually makes binge eating cycle along and progress is the secretiveness of it.
So, like, also shame.
Yeah.
Guilt. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much.
Well,
you're a great teacher, babe.
Thanks.
Like you're teaching me, babe. It's all good.
Awesome. But, you know, it's something like that. It's something as simple as, like, you know, you go with the common foods and then you hide your foods. The secretiveness of binge eating is what drives, right? It's if you think about it as adults, it's like hiding in the pantry and eating. Eat that.
Oh, mothers do that
all the time. Right? A part of it is also to eat in peace away from the kids. So you really need to ask yourself why you're doing it.
Yeah. So you said the youngest age for an eating disorder is 10.
Yeah. It's reducing,
How?
unfortunately.
Was it?
It's reducing, so it's getting younger.
Yeah. And I would say that would kind of tie into the two things, actually. The social media aspect of it, of, you know, the vulgarity, the sexualization of children, the dancing, all that.
Yeah.
The other part of it is the impact of puberty on younger ages for girls. And yeah, the over-sexualization, and then girls start to compare their bodies.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you is, how would you teach a child to distinguish between hunger and boredom?
Oh.
It's a good question, isn't
It's
it?
a good question. It's a hard
Spicy
one. It's a really, really hard one as well. It's actually, whenever I teach hunger to anyone, right, like I first teach them what fullness feels like.
Okay. And how would you describe that to a child?
Right. Well, how do you describe fullness?
Fullness. Oh, you're digging deep here, babe. How would I just? Well, I'm because I've done the sleep for 7 years. So when I start sneezing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So with kids, how we would describe fullness is that it feels like your stomach is like tighter. Right.
That tightness in your stomach.
That tightness in your stomach. You actually lose your appetite also when you're full. Like you don't feel like eating anything anymore. So with my girls, if I ask them if they're hungry, right? If they come to me, they're saying that they're hungry. How I distinguish it for them, whether they're hungry or full, is I give them a neutral food option, a food option that I know that they're not really keen on.
Yeah.
But will satisfy them. So for my eldest, it's banana. So she'll eat a banana if she knows she's really, really hungry. But if she's like bored, she won't eat a banana. She'll be wanting like chips or something, like some other food, right?
Okay.
So I'd be like, oh, if you're hungry, you can have a banana. And she's like, nah, I don't feel like that. Well, I'm like, then are you actually really hungry, or are you bored, right?
Oh, I could do that with the actual meals. So my kids snack a lot. They'll be like, Mum, can I have a snack? I'm like, are you hungry? Like, no, I just want a snack. And I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to have a snack. If you're hungry, you can go have the butter chicken that I made today.
Yeah.
It's divine. And they're like, I'm not hungry anymore. Okay, well, that's fine.
Exactly.
That's great.
Right.
Love that. So you're distinguishing between what hunger feels like. What about boredom?
Boredom doesn't really have a feeling, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, if they're not eating for hunger, then they're obviously eating for boredom.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good way. And do you have like a limit personally for like snacks for your kids during the day? Like ours is 3 snacks.
No.
No, you don't have one.
Because it adds a food rule for them.
Ooh. Can you elaborate on that?
So essentially,
what is your rule then? How would you distinguish between, like, you know, how do you prepare your dinner then?
So for example, if it's like after school and they've had their after school snack, because my girls have something to eat after school because they're starving, and you know, after their after school snack, they kind of come to me going, I'm still hungry, and it's only like half an hour or something till dinner. I'll be like, well, there's only half an hour. We can stay hungry for a little bit longer because there's nothing wrong with hunger. Like, you're not gonna die from being hungry, right? Yeah. So that's how I would manage it if it was like closer to dinner. If dinner was further off and they were still hungry, I'd be like, okay, well, do you want a snack? Like, okay, if you're real, I do the test. I'll be like, oh, well, if you're really hungry, there's a banana or a slice of bread. Like, you can go have that. And if my girls are actually like, yeah, I'll go have that, I'll be like, okay, let me make you a proper snack. Yeah. Right? Because the reason why is because I want them to realize when they're hungry and when they're not hungry. Like, that's how it was really hard actually transitioning my girls to kinder, because my girls, I got them really intuitive with themselves. So they'd just tell me when they're hungry. Like, it was never, I wake up, I have this to eat, and then a couple of hours, I have this to eat. It was never a structure, right? It was always based off their hunger and fullness. And then when they were like tucked into school and kinder, there's a routine, right? Like, lunch is at this time, breakfast is snack is at this time. And my girls struggle because they were like, I'm not hungry at that time. Yeah. Or I'm hungry an hour before that time. And so it was really like talking to them about how there's a structure at school and then we just need to kind of adapt to it. Yeah. Because kids are different to us. Like, if they've got a busy morning, they'll be hungrier earlier than us. So I really wanted to get them to be in tune with their hunger and fullness. Wow. Right. And so with the snacks, I don't put rules on it, because some days they snack more and then other days they don't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they would.
So I'm just allowing for that flexibility.
Yeah. So how would you also incorporate a more positive body image in life structure, in your counseling in general? Like, I know a lot of teenagers, mothers of teenagers, they want to teach them confidence. They want to teach them, acceptance around their body and whatnot. Obviously, moving away from what we've already said,
Yeah.
or any value that you can add. How do you incorporate or encourage a more positive body image rather than a restrictive one that we're either conditioned to or one that was unhelpful to us?
Language.
Oh, NLP, where you at?
Language,
Can you
definitely.
elaborate?
The way we talk about ourselves in front of our kids, the way we talk about ourselves to ourselves is what will determine body image.
Wow. Mic drop. I get a lot of so we do a lot of mirror work with the parent and the child that's dealing with the body image, but I don't realize how amazing it is. And then some, Karens on my page be like, yeah, but there's no scientific evidence that this works. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm scientific evidence, and in my therapy, it works.
Yeah.
I used this example in my last workshop, and I had the women in tears. And it's not the first time I use this technique, by the way.
Okay.
I think my listeners listen to it.
I think I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it before.
And then I said to them, write down all the negative shit that you say to yourself every single day. Just write it down on a piece of paper and don't write and write and write and write and write and write. And I'm like, okay. And then I bring my daughter and then I block her ears. I'm like, okay. So say it to her. Read your list out to her. No, that's traumatizing. I'm going to traumatize her forever. Okay. So when did you accept it upon yourself to speak to yourself like that?
Exactly.
Cheers.
Yeah. Like, for real. Actually, like, that reminds me, the first time I used mirror work with one of my clients, binge eating client, body image, it was really bad. She could not look at herself in the mirror. Right? Yeah. So I brought a mirror in and I'm like,
right there.
Look at yourself. Yeah. And I just got her to start talking to herself. That was it. It wasn't good, bad, just talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
It really, and I start crying.
She was in
because
tears.
When you're not happy with yourself, you avoid the mirror as much as possible.
Well, you avoid yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we were talking about like binge eating and what triggers binge eating, right? And we talk about external like triggers, like parents fighting, or you're having an argument with your spouse, or you've blown it at your kids and you're feeling guilty. But we forget about the internal ones when you talk to yourself negatively, when you're spending your whole day just putting yourself down, and at the end of the day you're like, well, I can't feel this anger towards myself anymore. Let's numb it. Let's soothe it. Right?
And then let's go with that feeling of like, let's suffocate that feeling of insecurity or inadequacy with food.
And then let's trigger the binge restrict cycle, because that will make us feel guilty about ourselves. Yeah. And then we'll want to be changing ourselves and try to add restriction in. Yeah. And then as we restrict our eating, what are we doing? We're putting ourselves down. We're telling ourselves we're not good enough, but we need to do better. And then, you know what? Again, the cycle goes on.
Yeah. I think I've spoken openly about this. I did the gastric sleeve about 7 years ago because I had such an unhealthy relationship with food. Now, I went from I lost at the time 55 kilos. But do you want to know what the gastric sleeve didn't heal and didn't get rid of? My relationship with myself, my relationship with food. I actually had to go out there and learn about this stuff. And when I hired my first nutritional coach, she told me about calories in, calories out, a calorie deficit, macros. She taught me about, well, she didn't teach me about macros because it was a bit too much for me. I get overwhelmed really easily. Yeah. And she literally told me, I remember telling her, I feel like a banana bread. She was like, fine, have your banana bread. Just add it into your calories. And I was like, I remember in the past, I was pregnant with my daughter and I had a personal trainer. And the personal trainer told me, and I said to her, I told her I'm just really hungry. And I was breastfeeding at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pregnant and I was breastfeeding.
Oh, wow.
And I told her, I'm just hungry. And I said, okay, I'm hungry. I want hot chips. She goes to me, if you eat that hot chips, don't come back to my sessions ever again. And I never went back.
Good.
And I'm like, that at that time was really daunting to me, because I'm like, I'm pregnant and I'm breastfeeding, because my elder two were like literally 14 months apart. So I fell pregnant with my daughter when my eldest was 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was still breastfeeding, or trying to.
That's hard.
While I was pregnant. And I just felt like freaking hot chips and gravy. That's what I wanted.
I feel like that now.
Yeah, it was like I had freaking trauma. And then I realized that the cycle continuously. And I don't think people understand the value of a calorie deficit. Everyone's quick to jump onto every single, weight loss facade or fad, the carnivore diet or intermediate fasting and everything. And you have to understand, not everything is going to work with your body. Not everything's going to work with your body. I'm sorry with that. But you want to know what's going to work with your body? Weight and eating at a rate that your body is happy with. And that's trial and error. That's really trial and error.
And that's understanding that every day your requirements are different.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially
and
like a woman's cycle.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Crazy. Literally every single cycle a woman has. We just, sometimes I want a cheeseburger. Just let me have a freaking cheeseburger.
Yep. And it's allowing that, because the more, again, when we were talking about food rules, the more food rules we have, essentially the more restrictions we put on ourselves. And we are all children at heart, and you put too many rules and restrictions on us, we want to break them all, right?
Yeah.
Or if we put like certain foods on a pedestal, guess what? That's all we want, because that's on the pedestal, and we go, oh, well, that's the best.
I'm going to work this donut out tomorrow. Okay, so let's talk about rules then. How would you teach healthier, less restrictive rules to a young teen or a woman?
Anyone. Okay. I teach them about incorporating more goodness.
Okay.
Right? So if you say, a teen comes to me and be like, oh, well, I want to eat better.
Yeah.
I'll be like, what's wrong with your eating now? Firstly.
Yeah.
Right? Because, well, actually, you know what? Something that I don't do in my counseling sessions is teach someone how to eat, because everyone knows how to eat.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. What we're confused. Essentially, like, it's not that we don't know how to eat or we don't know what's good for us. We're confused. And the information overload is what stops us from doing what we know.
There's too much information out there as well.
Yeah.
Because there's eons and eons.
Yeah. Because one day egg's bad for you and the next day eggs is the best thing in the world. So, to answer your question, how would I teach them? I would teach them first not to have food rules. So we'll go through what their food rules are, and we'll start breaking them. Because a lot of people's food rules actually restricts the variety they're able to eat. Right? The food rules are often there to control. And the more we try to control, the more out of control we can feel. Right? So when we look at good nutrition, I always ask them, what else could you add to what you're doing? Because we don't want to take away, because if we take away, we're restricting. So let's add, right? So for example, if you're making a pasta dish for your kids and you're like, oh, this is so bad, I'll be like, no, it's not. Let's just add some more goodness into it. What else could you add to that to increase its nutritional value? Yeah. Right? So it's always talking about the nutritional value of things, but also understanding that food serves a greater purpose for us.
Yeah.
Other than nutrition. Right? It's not just food. It's not just nutrition. It's not just fuel, but it also has an emotional component to us.
Yeah.
Right? It is there. It does trigger pleasure centers. It does give us a dopamine hit. And if we negate that part, we're really kind of looking at only half the picture of what food does for us. Yeah. It's kind of like, exercising. Well, if people go, oh, I just exercise because it's good for my muscles. It's like, well, no, it's because it's giving you a endorphin kick as well.
Yeah. So don't desensitize all parts when you should listen to the feeling. But instead of instant gratification, create more delayed gratification. So talk about do you think that this will be good for your body? Would you use this metaphor? I use this metaphor with my clients that deal with eating disorders. It's like, okay, would you put what kind of fuel would you need to run a really good car?
Yeah.
Petrol.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, petrol.
Yeah.
Okay, what is our petrol? What is our fuel for our body?
Yeah.
Water. Okay. You can have your carbs. And you talk about the, I think the eating triangle, healthy food triangle has changed.
Yes, it's a plate now.
Yeah. Is it a circle now?
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was a triangle.
Yes.
And that changed. Now it's a circle. Great. So, serving a greater purpose and everything. And I think a lot of parents would really benefit from hearing that. Anything else you'd like to leave us with?
I'm going to leave on this note.
Okay.
Everyone talks about making healthier choices, right? And, we've talked about how do we do that and how can we make sure we teach our kids to do that, right? But I will say it's really, really hard to make healthier choices for a person that you don't like.
Ooh. Mic drop. Whoa. So it starts with you.
Yeah.
It all starts with you. That's the best part, right? A lot of people think, that's the hardest part. No, but that's the easiest part because that's in your control.
Because if you like yourself, well, you're going to put more effort into making sure you're feeling yourself well and doing the right things to make sure your body is functioning well because you appreciate your body.
Yeah.
You appreciate yourself and what you do for the world and what you bring to, your family and your friends and whatever circles you're in. It starts with you.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard. Like, you probably see it. Like, if you don't want to change, it's hard to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not here to, I think I can speak for both of us when I say this. A counselor isn't going to shake the change out of you. You got to come with, okay, I'm worth it.
Yeah.
Let me make something of myself because I'm worth it. I am enough.
And even if you have like a small sprinkle of that, we can like ignite it for you.
Yeah, we can ignite it. That's our superpower, right? I love it. Where can everyone find you, Saabira?
On Instagram. So I'm currently on Instagram. I'm currently going through a rebanding process. So follow me on Instagram. I go as sabiraw.therapist. If my handle changes, which it will in the next few months, I will let you guys know. But at the moment, that's my handle. You can contact me on email as well if you're looking for appointments. I do have sessions available if anyone's interested, specializing in binge eating and emotional eating. But yeah, thank you so much, Safa. So enjoyable talking to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this really, really powerful and valuable session. I wasn't the therapist here. I wasn't the professional here. Saabira was, and I learned a hell of a lot. I hope you guys really found this really beneficial, and I look forward to hearing from you on the next episode of the Hype Coach podcast. Stay hyped, stay sane, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Hype Coach podcast. If you did enjoy this podcast episode, please share it on your socials. You can find me on IG, Safa Al Chami, TikTok, The Al Chami Life, and you can book a personal therapy package at my website, www.thehypecoach.com.au. I look forward to working with you. Let's grow.